Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll be starting soon, as soon as all of the board members, and we have a quorum. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Who's on the call?
Hi, Carrie.
Hello, apologies for being late. I just got out of a meeting, so catch my breath for a minute. Do we have, I think we do. Right, Sherry?
Yes.
Rain. Anissa. Oh, great. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience and thank everyone for joining today's board meeting. on June 15th, 2023. This public meeting of Hope Community Public Charter School Board is now called to order. We will now call the roll to determine if we have quorum. Nisa Bailey.
Here.
Nisa. Lorraine Oyutobo.
Here, good evening, everyone.
Hello, good evening. Allison Barr.
I'm here.
Hey. Sharifa Balogun. Sherry's on the call. Sharifa, are you there?
I'm here.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I know I saw your name. Okay, and we have, who did I miss? Neha Patel.
Here.
Here, nice to hear your voice.
Likewise.
And Eric Johnson, I don't see him here. That's okay. But we have quorum. Fantastic. A quorum has been determined, and we will now proceed with the business portion of the meeting. We have an agenda to review, and I would like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Sharika, I move to approve the agenda for today, June 15th.
Thank you. And may I have someone to second the motion?
This is Lorraine. I second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Nope, the agenda is approved. And board members, we also have the board minutes to review. Are there any corrections? I don't have any. Nope. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 18th, 2023 meeting?
It's Sharika. I move to approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2023 meeting.
Oh, may I have someone to second the motion?
This is Allison. I'll second.
Thank you, Allison. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And any nays or abstentions? Nope, the minutes we approved will be online. Will be posted online, and minutes from this meeting will be, from today's meeting, will be approved at the next scheduled board meeting, which will be in September. And the recording of this meeting will be available 24 to 48 hours on the school's website. And these actions are based on the Open Meetings Act. So today we will hear updates from PLA and Hope on the progress of the school. And I think let's jump right in. CMO report, who's going first? Is that you, Melissa?
Yes, it is. That is me. We are going to be presenting some data today. Actually, Joshua was supposed to be here tonight, so he must have had something come up. I'm not sure, but I will be sharing the report with you today. Just sharing the progress. I know that we were going to give some high-level overviews of some different components and pieces. Actually, I would like to ask, can we actually have Eva go first, and I'll be right with you. And I apologize. I thought Joshua was on the call. I just realized he's not. So if you could, Eva, I apologize. Could you go really quickly, and then I'll jump right in.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, go ahead, Eva.
I apologize. Thank you.
No worries.
Of course. If we could jump to page 14, there we go. And I will stay brief since we, of course, review this in detail on the Finance Committee meeting. On this chart, we really see the key items that we monitor. Cash, of course, is crucial. We still are forecasted to end at 143 days cash, as you can see in the chart there, which is a very solid place to be. That prepares the school for the unexpected expenses or changes in revenue streams. Ideally, we keep that. On the margin side, we are at the negative 7%. That was intentional for this year. We really need to be moved to a break even next year. This year, that was really ensuring that position stayed for continuity. So those are very much as we've been following for the last 6 to 7 months. Everything is tracking just on. Expenses are very much in line, with the exception of nurse was a little bit high. We've been able to bring that down somewhat. Now working on custodial, that is has been running a little bit higher than budget also. So we want to bring that agreement down also. So to be sure, it's always a balance that the school has the coverage needed, but that it isn't too much. So overall financials stay right on track, very much with where they were. And we're moving towards the focus on fiscal year 24. Key driver there, of course, will be enrollment, and then managing staff to align with that enrollment, as we always do. Last piece I would note, on the grants invoice to date at 37%, that's still low, but all are on track to be fully expended by 9/30. So it really pushes as you get towards the end of the year that we can continue to spend those grants down and collect reimbursement. I'll stop there for questions, and then I just have one additional update.
I don't have any questions. Allison, anything to add?
I think the only thing to add, not to the financials, but an update from the committee, is we had a kickoff call with our auditors earlier this week to start the process for this fiscal year and trying to get ahead of the schedule and looking at a timeline of later this year to have some information to share with the rest of the board about the audit.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. And super important, the auditors are across the board. Their schedules fill quickly, so getting on the top helps us to come out on the other side quicker. So if we could go, Christina, down just one more page. There we go. One piece that came up in the meeting last month that I just wanted to be sure was shared here with the board would be the financial approval process, to be sure that, you know, we've kind of done the due diligence of everything before it gets to the board. So this just sort of outlines the flow. Everything starts at the school level, runs through Melissa. Once it gets through those pieces, then we start to review against budget, make sure that we can shift within budget categories if needed, if for some reason there were not. Then the larger expenditures all end up going to EdOps, but we have a review stop on larger expenditures with EdOps to be sure that would that's not going to cause any problems from their line of sight, to be sure that we're always aligned. And then it moves on. I don't want to read each one, but so then we're going to look at what our options are if there were an expense that were higher than the budget category remaining, what we can do before it goes to the finance committee. And then if it's over the $10,000 threshold, and then to the board. And bottom line there, and I was not on the last board meeting, but there may have been a request that came in that hadn't gone to the finance committee. They all should. Finance committee is the first stop, does the scrub, the detailed due diligence, and then if it is approved there, it goes to the board meeting. So we'll be sure that that process continues, and EdOps is of course part of every step of the way there. So just wanted to have that for reference, and we will make sure that any requests that come in have also been followed that process. That's all I've got.
Oh, thanks, Eva.
That's it, Christina.
All right, and we do have Joshua on the call now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really high level for academics. Right now, we are starting off strong next school year with modeling independent practice, pacing, and habits of discussion for teachers. So those will be the focus for PDs in the upcoming school year, because that's what we ended with. As far as academics for NWA, every grade level had bubble students. So the interventionists, I've created the interventionist list for next year. So students will be going straight to interventionists right away. And then we only had one suspension in the last month. So we have decreased our climate and culture suspensions.
I'm sorry, was that it?
Yes, did you have any specific questions?
No, I may come back. I don't have, no, I may come back. Sorry, my printer was going, so I really couldn't hear, but we can always revisit it.
Okay.
Do we have time later? Maybe it's not in this part, just to look at where the data, some of the assessment data coming out, is that in another part of the agenda?
When you say assessment data, are you referring to end of the year NWA or?
Yeah, the math data and the looking at the winter and spring.
Yes, that was on the report. Christina, if you can just scroll down, I can go back over that.
Yeah, it'd be helpful to hear a little bit more about these data points.
Okay, so this is just how you read the NWA data. There is a kind of, it lets you know that the lower quartile is less than 21%, low average is 21 to 40, average is 41 to 60, high average is 61 to 80, and then high would be greater than 80. So we want to make sure that kids are yellow and above. So this year, we had 66% of our, 75% of our kindergartners are on or above grade level, which is that yellow and above. We decreased the number of scholars who are below grade level in first grade. Now 60% of scholars are proficient and above. We decreased the number of scholars that are below grade level in third grade. And now we have 40% on grade level. 5% of our scholars are leaving sixth grade on grade level. 43% of seventh grade scholars are leaving on grade level. And then 19% of eighth grade scholars are leaving on grade level. And that is for the math data.
I need to say anything about fourth grade. And is there a fourth grade? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so only 5% on grade level in fourth grade.
And hold on, so, sorry, it's so tiny. So what's going on with the fourth, fifth, and sixth graders? And how do we, I mean, these are only 5% of scholars in the sixth grade moving to the seventh grade are above grade level. Correct? No, are on grade level, not above, are on grade level.
Yeah, only 5% are on grade level.
So what are the expectations for them going into seventh grade?
So we are going to be utilizing both of our Math Advantage interventionists right away. So they'll be pushing in, pulling small groups. So they'll get tier 2 instruction from the interventionist as well as a double dose from the teacher. And then I'll also be pulling groups as well so that we can make sure that our scholars are moving to grade level before the end of the year.
So that's the high school grade, right? That high schools look at the seventh grade. Are any of these kids in summer advantage program?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's the end of the school year. Any sense of, especially in those grades where you're seeing the increase in kids at that lowest tier, what sense of what was going on between winter, spring to see that increase in the red in those grades particularly?
We lost a teacher. We didn't have a teacher.
I'm gonna say there was a lot of turnover too. Just, we know that we struggled with middle school in general, you know, like there were a lot of struggles with staffing there in general. And then also the fourth, fifth grade, we lost a teacher as well. And we had somebody that we were able to put in to try to cover the gaps, but timing too, a lot of the the loss was towards the end of the year, and it's very difficult to find people to put in a classroom for just a few months towards the end of the year. We can also speak to second grade. There were some challenges there too as well. It was a very large class, and just some, I know that we have pushed a lot of support in there, but there was a lot of challenges with our second grade group. But they actually look like they stayed the same from group to group. But the goal is to grow them, right?
Yeah.
Are we, as we go into the new as we go into the new school year, are we fully staffed now for those grades that we lost teachers, or what's going on in those grades?
Yes, we do have a 4th and 5th grade math teacher as well as a middle school math teacher, yes.
And Mr. Owens, are you fully staffed right now, or do you still have an open position?
Can we talk offline about one of the positions that that you and I and Josh had a concern about?
Okay, so we may have a concern, but are we fully staffed? That's the question. Do we have a bunch of open positions or not right now?
Well, we only have 2 positions open, and none of them are in our core subjects.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. Does the middle school math and, are they aware of this data and taking that into, being mindful of this as the students are coming in for the new year with what they're going to be learning and how they're going to be learning?
Do you mind clarifying who is they when you say, do they know the data? The students or the teacher?
The teachers, like, are they aware that their students are coming in not necessarily having, that much of an improvement from this winter? Like, are they mindful of that in how they're building how the kids are going to be learning and what they're going to be learning this next year?
Yeah, this is a great question. Yes, they are aware. The teachers are aware. The 4th and 5th grade teacher is aware because she's currently here now. As for the new middle school teacher that's starting, they are not aware, but they will be aware when we have summer PD, when teachers come to the building.
We also put several crosswalk reports together too for our teachers, and developed some different plans and make sure that we have that beginning of the year data to help support what do those learning plans look like for those students that are not where they need to be. We've got a lot of work to do.
And underneath this data, is there a sense of whether there are particular standards that are driving some of this, or areas to specifically focus on for those kids, particularly that are in that red, or does it not break down in that kind of way?
And I think when you look at those greatest red areas, you think about, those 3 years ago, those were the kids that were in their primary grades for the pandemic. I do think that does have a factor. They missed a lot of those foundation skills and had some of those greatest gaps. But at the same time, I do think we keep going back to, we do our BAS assessments that give us a good sense of, as a reader, is it phonics? Is it, is it comprehension? And it helps us develop that small group instruction that happens in the room. And then the same for math. We have Zern that actually, provides information with each math module that we do and provides that tiered intervention and support. But to your point, just to pinpoint it on one thing, I think some of it still tends to be foundation skills. But to say one specific foundation skill, I couldn't say that. But I do think that there are some gaps, definite gaps from some different things that have taken place. And we do have some ways to measure and determine what those gaps are to plot out those next steps. It's really, in my opinion, it's about consistency. Having a person that's consistent and doing, completing curriculum with fidelity is really going to be key to moving kids. Just having a consistent person there with them in the classroom, in a space that's caring and providing them with those skills consistently and with fidelity.
Hi, Sharifa. Do you have particular metrics or goals that you strive to achieve year over year?
Yes, so our goal is to have 60% of our scholars meet their NWEA target. But with that, I would also like to throw out there, I'm not one to make excuses for teachers, students, or from myself. However, I felt bad for the students this year, being that they took Park and then turned around and took NWA. So they had a lot of testing going on during this time. So it may not be the most accurate data. And I'm kind of looking forward to see what the Park data says so that I can make the comparison between NWA and Park, because they did take Park first.
Yeah, so did a lot of other schools did it that way as well. And I do understand as a parent, I'm like, why they're so close and why are they to the end of the year? So I don't know how you fix that or how you make adjustments. But I mean, I'll just be honest, this is worrisome. Like you said, Melissa, I know some of this is still lingering from pandemic as people have moved through the grades because we didn't hold people back. That was not really realistic. But how do you get parents involved in some of this? Like, how do you, like, do we talk to parents about, are there parent teacher meetings going on? Like, are we talking to parents about, here's where your kid is and here's where we want to see them next year and here's how you can help, move them along over the summer, are we sharing reading, reading lists for the summer, or I don't know, like what's going on between now and August?
I know we have 122 kids, I believe that's the number, someone correct me if I'm wrong, from enrollment that are attending Summer Advantage. So when we look at that, that's a good bulk of our children. So I do think we do have a lot of solid things. And when we did the crosswalk last year for kids end of the year, NWA to beginning of the year NWA, we did see growth, and and that typically doesn't happen. Usually we have what we call summer slide, right? Kids fall back because they haven't been in school, but we didn't. We actually show growth from the end of the year last year to the beginning of the year, or 2 years ago to the beginning of the year this year. So we do have some different things in place. I will say Mr. Owens has a requirement about phone calls. It actually even comes on my calendar that people should be calling parents, not only just for academics, but frequently and building relationships. There also are different requirements around communicating, what to do for kids. I know that he has been working with Mr. Tolliver and a couple other people about some events that are coming up. So but to say for this year, I know there was a lot of plans and a lot of expectations, but I feel like to the point where we are where we are now, we have a lot of turnover. It's because people weren't, there's a lot of people not following those expectations. But Mr. Owens, you want to talk about for this next year where we're going with some of those communications? And I know we talked about Title I nights and Joshua too. Please feel free to jump in.
Well, next year, my camera on. The expectation for next year is we're going to meet with our new teachers, and we have some mandates, some mandatory things that we're doing. I have talked to the leadership team as well. So to get our parents more involved, all of our parent teacher conference will be in the evening. So I already spoke. So the hour is going to be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we can get the parents in the building, because prior to time you come to board, they were doing the regular day. Most of our parents work. So therefore, looking at our parents involved in that, as far as we're going to have a strive, do a PTO as well as get our parents involved. And so we're going to have things such as every quarter, we're going to have a STEM night, a STEAM night. We're going to do some exhibits and showcase what our scholars are doing. We're going to have a curriculum night. One time it's going to address ELA. The next time it's going to address math. So the expectation is for our new teachers coming aboard that they going to have some mandates in which they have to volunteer for, and if they don't volunteer them for that. So they're going to have some things that they have to be able to participate in, such as prom, such as different activities that we're having, and different showcases that we're going to do to get our parents in the building and showcase what our scholars are doing. That's when we get our parents involved in. And I've been like just talk to different things we need to do. And so the new staff that's coming aboard, they're very excited. They want to put in the work. Some of the teachers that I interviewed, they were also told about the deficiencies of our students, their learning loss because of COVID, and they're willing to jump in right away and try to get our scores up.
Yeah.
I have a comment slash recommendation. This is Sharifa. I don't think anyone on the call would say that these numbers are great. And I understand that there are a number of factors that may have contributed to the numbers, but it would be nice moving forward if as you develop these reports where we see areas like these of deficiencies or where we're not reaching our goals, if you can proactively show us the set of strategies that you plan to implement to overcome some of the obstacles, that would give the board members some assurance that, or more assurance that you are aware of the problem, you've identified the problem, but you worked on a plan to solve the problem. And I will say that sometimes the assurance is not always there because it feels as if we don't hear about some of the recommendations until there's some probing by the board. And so there's an opportunity for the school to be a bit more proactive in developing those strategies and solutions so that the board is more assured that there are steps in place to fix some of the issues.
Well, if I want to be a little more transparent, which I know this is being recorded, but the thing is that a lot of things weren't done with fidelity, and Mr. Christian can agree with me. So we're going to be more on top of it, make sure that our CFAs and everything else is being done more efficiently. PLCs will be done more efficiently, will be addressed, and data dives and data digs will be done more efficiently, so we can help coach our teachers so they can be successful, so our scholars can be successful. And the plans are, and you will have it in your possession. We're going to have, I know you have the school calendar, but in that calendar, all the parents, the scholars, and the board will have a calendar of everything that we're doing at the time that we're going to have all our activities, when we're doing our data digs and things of that nature. So you'll have that in hand prior to the start of school. And we're in the process of working on that now.
When you see data like this, do you adjust your I know the teachers come in like a week or two before school starts for training. And we have a new curriculum, right? I think so. New curriculum moving forward. But like, how are we pivoting before the teachers come in? Like, do you guys pivot to adjust for some of this in terms of what PD is going to look like, you know, as you go into the new year? Like, what goes on?
And I'm going to share this. I will say one of the things, it kind of does come back to fidelity. It built into PLA's model. One of the things that we kind of pride ourselves on is our master schedule, because we maximize time. We have whole group instruction that's about 30 minutes, and then we have small group instruction. And the purpose of that is that we take not this data, this is a school-wide grade level snapshot, but we take classroom data, we dig down, we look and see what does that data tell us by student, and we should be developing those plans based on the student needs. Then kind of grouping like students, 4 or 5, and pulling small groups to us all the time. At the same time, we have interventionists that should be in those rooms, pushing in, providing additional supports, whether it be reading or math. And so it happens in reading and it happens in math. But what I will say is kind of back to that fidelity point, is that to say that it was happening well, I know Joshua specifically did a ton of coaching. Mr. Owens actually as well did coaching and CD, both of them around small group instruction. And I know that was one of the points that Joshua had been reporting out on as well throughout the year. But to that point, it's a lot of then what do we do? You know, here it is. Now it's the now what? We have all the intervention tools, but it's ensuring that people are looking at the data, we leave with a plan, we're using the tools, and that those tools are being used with fidelity, then we're tracking it again, and then making those, like you said, then we pivot again. We should be pivoting every time we have a new set of data, whether it be NWA or we call them CFAs, those common formative assessments that are short, sweet. We get them on about every week. So we have all the tools. It's now being able to have the personnel that is going to utilize those tools with fidelity, if that makes sense. So it's about PD and coaching, definitely, and accountability.
So when I look at the I'm just skipping ahead to the ELA data, and you look at the 7th and 8th grades, like, did we have teacher people leaving those grades as well?
So 7th grade, the middle school ELA specifically, we struggled almost pretty much all year having a teacher. We had, even Joshua taught the class for a while. I mean, like we have just trying to bridge that gap. That was actually the biggest hit I feel like we had was through the middle school ELA teacher. Am I sharing that correctly, team?
Yes, that is correct. I think one of the biggest issues is when we get a long-term sub, the long-term sub is not teaching the standards. So they're just kind of going through the lesson plans that I create or someone on the team will create. But it's not the best type of instruction that our scholars need and deserve. So I think we could attribute that to that because they did have 5 different teachers in ELA, and the ELA teacher teaches 6th, 7th, and 8th grade all together. Well, not all together, but different blocks, but it's just one teacher for those grade levels.
I think to Sharifa's point, not shying away from sharing the growth opportunities that we're seeing and we're getting from this data in the same way you're sharing bright spots. What is this data telling you about where we need to improve, and actually being very transparent and upfront in these presentations about what you're focused on and what even maybe you're concerned about? Because I think these conversations are clearly showing you're having these conversations, but when you only see bright spots, it makes you, and I 100% believe in highlighting and honoring the successes we're having, because there are things to celebrate, but not shying away from sharing with us kind of maybe some of the concerns you're seeing and what you're doing about it.
So thanks, Allison, and everyone who's commented. And so the kids then moving on to high school. I know it's not your problem now, it's someone else's, but like, so they're not most of them aren't prepared then, right? Is that how I look at the data? Do we have anyone is anyone going to like some of the anyone going to the competitive schools? You know, I'm just wondering, you know, I think, you know, most of us on the call have kids, right? Or kids in the family. And one thing parents look for is that, yeah, you know, you come in, but where do you end up, right? What path are you on? And I know it's a journey from kindergarten to 8th grade, but 8th grade is also a place for us to shine. And I'm not sure that the kids are going off to high school being high school ready.
Yeah, looking through that, the yellow, the green, and the blue are the ones that we're saying that are at grade level. I mean, based on the report. But to your point, yes, more than half the kids are not there. And so to your point, yes, I mean, that is a concern. And I think there's been a lot of conversation around high school development in general, just what are we doing? It was interesting too, just even, you know, Mr. Christian heard something a student was saying about these scores don't matter. And so we actually had to have a sit down conversation with a couple of the 8th grade students about, you know, you can't take back what you just shared with all the other students, that this isn't going to keep you from moving on to the next grade. And now I said, and now when you go to school, they're going to look at this information. But exactly, how are we making sure that they're involved and that the parents are involved and feel like they truly have a grasp on what this data means? And even though it doesn't go in a report card, it does have value in it, and it is something that people, you know, schools view. And I am curious to see, especially Park, because actually it was said about Park specifically. And so they said the school gets money for how we do it. I tried to explain that, you know, I hear what you're saying, but this has value to you and what you're, you know, when you move on, this is where they're going to look at. So I know that's something that Mr. Owens has talked about too, is a lot of like more very transparent conversations with pulling in the community, pulling in the parents and the students, and making sure that they understand. We did send information out, but, you know, I think we can do a better job next year of making sure that everybody's on the same page.
So do we have an ELA teacher already hired?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay.
She's also teaching summer school now, so she is working with our summer advantage students. So she had an opportunity to meet a lot of our scholars now, and then she's also aware of the data too. So she's been proactive as far as looking at standards, unpacking them between what scholars need to know, what they need to be able to do, and then identifying what the misconception is or the biggest gap is, so that she can come out the gate doing exactly what scholars need, which is teaching them what they don't know as opposed to teaching them what they do know.
Okay. Okay.
And this is just some opportunistic feedback. In the high school that I went to, they actually had a program for the 7th graders and the 6th graders who were in the high percentiles, scoring wise, that prepared us for the 8th grade in high school. So in the sense of kind of like what you were saying, Melissa, sitting down with the 7th graders and helping them understand how, serious it is that you take this last year specifically, and how the grades are going to be reflected on transcripts and things like that. And I will never forget that talk, because it really helped me take my last year very seriously, because I wanted to go to a good school. So just, to keep that in mind, maybe even start preparing these kids a little bit earlier, and maybe not wait till 8th grade, and start talking to the 7th graders more about, hey, like, this is the year that we really want to make sure that you're on track and you're prepared for this next journey in your, schooling.
Absolutely.
And any additional comments about the data here? So if not, I think we'll I guess Park is up next, and you guys do the map in the beginning of the school year, or close to the like, you do
Yes,
testing in the beginning of the school year, right?
yes, they do the BOY fall assessment.
Okay, right. And we should get the Park in the September board meeting or October.
It should be September board meeting. Hopefully we get the results by mid or end of August.
Okay, all right. Christina, just make a note of that. We should have Park, or if it included in September when we meet. Okay.
Will do.
Okay, thanks, Christina. Anything else to add, Melissa or Mr. Owens or Josh?
I don't think
Well, since you're here, can we just, I'm sorry, Christina, when I move this agenda around, any academic excellence, anything from the committee? Melissa or Lisa?
is Anissa on here. So, I mean, we basically went over the NWA data. It's kind of what we did. We did do a deeper dive. And if there's something more you're wanting from the committee to, let us know, because I know we do meet as a smaller team and we do dig a bit deeper. And I know that sounds like it is something we want here as more of a whole board group. So let us, I'm happy to share, but that we just talked through NWA and talked about some of the summer things coming up, and just trying to be proactive. I know that you have a board retreat coming up too. So if there's anything specific you want there, let me know, and I'll prepare some things and try to make it out that way on those dates.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Okay, what's next on the agenda? The department updates. Summer advantage, and we don't need to go through every slide. I think we just need a overview and enrollment, if you have that, and also, how is it broken down? Is it by grade level, or this is the first week, I think. How's it going? Yeah, I read the slides. I don't need to.
Right, absolutely. And Christine, I think you can even stay on the agenda if you'd like. That would be fine. I mean, I'm sure we had 122 students that are in Summer Advantage right now. Our Summer Advantage, actually, I believe we're getting ready to go on a field trip, and I think Mrs. Carter is on here. She's our program manager for Summer Advantage as well. So the program is focused on the mornings on academics, math, and reading. In the afternoon, it's all enrichment. So working on different enrichment items. And then we're having a field trip and other community opportunities on Friday. I know they've been working hard. We have several Spanish-speaking students, which is exciting. We have some Spanish-speaking staff members that are helping to support. We also were able to purchase some bilingual reading materials to help support that population that's been joining us. Mr. Tolliver, who is on here as well, we want to give him our gratitude because he's actually been gassing up the van and picking up some of the students that have been joining us for Summer Advantage to ensure that they're able to make it to the campus. As far as broken down by grade level, Tiffany, do you have that information? Is that something you're wanting to know, Carrie, about how it's broken down by grade level?
Yeah, I would like to see, grade level, and actually, it's the first week of vacation for you guys. So, did all 122 kids come, or what have you seen so far in the attendance, and do we think we can keep it up? So if you have, I'm sorry, Miss Carter is the name of the person?
So Ms. Carter's here. I know Tiffany's here with enrollment, and Mr. Tolliver too with enrollment. I will also share Stephanie Hayes, who is our new executive director that's going to be overseeing the Summer Advantage program, was also on campus there with them their first week. So, but Tiffany or Mr. Tolliver, would you like to share about the breakdown for enrollment?
Mr. Tolliver, will you be able to speak to that, or because I would have to pull that information up because I kind of left it to you all.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Mr. Tolliver. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and yourself. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good. So I can speak towards the Summer Advantage numbers. So yes, the original enrollment was 122. However, starting out on Monday, we had approximately 44 students on the first day of the Summer Advantage program. And then on Tuesday, we had 63. And then as a result, today, we had more scholars attend. We had about 75 scholars attend. So what Ms. Carter and her assistant principal for summer school has done is, for those students or scholars who have not attended Summer Advantage, she has called each parent. She also has reached out to her Summer Advantage teachers to also contact the parents of the scholars inside the classroom because we want 100% participation. And so that's where we are right now. I myself, I continue to send out Parent Square information to parents, just in case those parents who did not have their scholar return. I'm sending out reminders to make sure that they have their scholar attend. This is the first weekend, so we just want to make sure we have all students in attendance so our students can continue to learn and grow in the process. So that's where we are for Summer Advantage right now.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Tolliver. But quick question here. So you said Monday you had 44 people show up, 44 kids. And then Tuesday you had 63. So what was the count for Wednesday and today?
So the count for today was 75.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wednesday was
so
about what? Okay.
yeah, so that's still not 100% proficiency. So I each and every morning I make sure I check in with Ms. Carter, who's the summer school principal, as well as Mrs. Gregory, who's her assistant for the summer. But just making sure that we continue to move forward, pushing the numbers up as far as Summer Advantage. So we have a few more to go.
Do we have people on the wait list that we could reach out to, or anyone we could?
Absolutely. So I sent out the a message to parents through Parent Square for those parents who might have forgotten about their scholar attending, as well as the touch point as far as Ms. Carter calling parents specifically to make sure that we connect with parents. I myself have also contacted parents as well to make sure that they have their scholar arrive. And so some parents said that they're going to plan to have their scholar attend since we are in the first week of Summer Advantage. So their scholar or their child has not missed a program. They still can join us. And so we continue to reach out to those parents on a daily basis, whether it be through word of mouth, with me standing outside to greet parents as well as Ms. Carter. But also we make sure that we follow up with parents as well. So those are some of the things we're doing, and we'll continue to move forward in that direction.
Do we give lunch and breakfast?
Yes, ma'am. So when students arrive, they sit inside of our multi-purpose room or cafeteria and receive and then that's lunchtime. Then we also provide them with lunch as well. And for those students who may have a bigger appetite, we also provide them a snack before they leave the building. So Ms. Carter and Ms. Gregory is in charge of that piece, but they make sure, for an example, today's students had a cart filled with what was it, bananas and I believe apples, and it might have been milk on the cart, but students were able to, as well as staff, were able to take a snack home with them on their way walking outside for dismissal.
Okay. There's a
And
comment.
one of the other things that we are doing, as we are monitoring our attendance for Summer Advantage, we have also opened the opportunity to other scholars to speak to your wait list. We don't necessarily have a wait list, but we do have it open for additional scholars to take that to take up the opportunity should they choose to do so.
Okay. Do you think we can get to 122, the original that I'm assuming we've budgeted for? Because I'm sorry, I'm gonna go there. If we don't have 122, then we need to adjust some things, right?
I was gonna say,
If you plan for how many teachers based on 122 students, or Can
I, this is Miss Carter. Hi, how's everyone doing?
good.
So just to speak to what's been going on with Summer Advantage. So each day we've seen our numbers increase. And what we found is that some of our parents were unaware that we actually started this week because we have scholars coming from other schools, and their schools have not ended. Today was the last day for some of our neighboring schools, and where our scholars are coming from that were not originally from Hope. So we are expecting an influx of students in the next couple of days. I have reached out, like Mr. Tolliver said, to all of our scholars, parents, whether it was through email or phone calls, to reiterate our start date and to let them know that we are looking forward to meeting their scholars. So we have put in place a contingency plan. I do believe that we can reach our numbers because we've steadily increased each and every day. We've increased our numbers, but we do have a contingency plan in place if we do have to make adjustments due to our numbers. So we have a plan in place, but we don't want to implement it just yet. We're asking for grace because there has been just a shift in the expectation of when we were to start, our actual start date, and then scholars coming from other schools. But we are confident, based on the reports that I've gotten from my teachers who reached out, and then the calls that I make each and every day, calls and text messages, that we can hit our numbers. And now that we've opened up enrollment to include all of our scholars, I really do think that we can get very close to our enrollment number. So if we can have till midweek next week, I think that we can hit those markers. And if not, then we do have a contingency plan in mind that we can make to reduce staffing if needed, but also keep with continuity of what the program is about and making sure that our scholars make those marks by the end of the summer.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ms. Hawkins, Ms. Carter. But when you say kids from other schools, these are kids that are transferring into Hope?
Yes, these are kids that are transferring in from other schools.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I know some schools aren't finished until tomorrow and stuff like that. And some schools go to next week. So I understand that. Yeah.
And just a second piece too, because you were asking about funding. I mean, yes, of course, we have to be cognizant of students, how the budget is written and how the grants are written, but this was also funded through the Summer Accelerator grant. So that is exciting. So it's not something that's being pulled right from the general budget to make it work. So that is one of the pluses too of the seats. But to your point, of course, if we don't have the students, we would. But on the back end, this is exciting. Mrs. Carter and her team have an amazing opportunity right now while the groups are very small to really work with kids in a very small setting to ensure that they're getting what they need. So that is on the plus end right now while we're trying to build those numbers.
Okay, I mean, I understand with some of the, people who still need to come in, but so next week is a short week because Monday's a holiday. Are you guys open or closed?
We're closed on Monday for
Closed?
Juneteenth.
Okay.
Yeah, we're closed.
So the following week, the Monday or Tuesday, someone can send me an email with what the numbers look like. I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. So let's talk about the enrollment and marketing.
For having us. Christina, oh, thank you. Mr. Tolliver is going to be discussing the items on this first page.
All right, good evening again, everyone. So I'll start out by what the first thing I have on the agenda is the remaining open house sessions. The next open house session that we have will be, as you look at the schedule, June the 20th at 10 a.m. I normally like to have parents come in as well as meet with leadership if possible, but also be able to see the school, to see the walls that talk, as well as to see the students engage in their lesson inside the classroom. However, we do have Summer Advantage right now. So I primarily will meet with parents inside of the parent involvement room, and we will talk in reference to what we offer as reference to our STEAM curriculum. We're the only school in Washington, D.C. with the STEAM curriculum. So that's exciting for a lot of parents. They always want to know what's the difference between STEAM and STEM. And so that's exciting to help them understand how we will continue to groom our students, but also move forward as a school. The second thing I have is continued boots on the ground efforts. The first bullet point I have is preparing for summer carnival. With the summer carnival, the goal is to make sure that we have our new students, as well as returning students, community members, as well as everyone in general within Ward 5 or Ward 6 attend our summer carnival. I believe with this initiative, it will help with exposure. That's free publicity, but also it gets the community roaring to say, okay, well, what do they have going on at Hope? CPS. And so that's important for community members as well as students to get engaged with the up and coming school year. But myself as well as Dr. Owens, we're pushing forward to the summer carnival being in July, on July the 21st, which is a Friday. And we'll try to have it in the evening so we can cater it towards our parents who work. And so that will give them enough time to join us along with those festivities. The next thing is the Capital Area Food Bank with our food pantry. We primarily have the food pantry set up or organized inside the parent involvement room. Parents are able to come in and receive fresh fruits and vegetables, which again is a great time to help parents see students learning, but also see the faces of instructors inside the building, but also be able to nourish or take care of their home. So for the good of the school, it also provides safety for the household. The next bullet point, which is weekly canvassing and targeted wards based on the My School DC data findings. So for an example, today, I had the opportunity to walk in the community and touch bases with several community members who are within our community who also want to help out, but they just want to find out how or what can they do to help us as we move forward in reference to recruitment. And so some of those organizations or even businesses that I had the opportunity to touch bases with today, I will invite them to future engagements. For an example, the Summer Carnival, as well as the up and coming events that we will have as it relates to students learning at the school in reference to recruitment as well. The next thing is participation in the nationally televised Cherry Blossom Parade and the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade. Primarily getting in contact with the POCs for each event. The Cherry Blossom Parade is specifically, I believe it is in the month of March of 2024, and then the Dr. Martin Luther King Day Parade will be, of course, in 2024 in January of next year. So I will continue to gear up. Hopefully we can have staff as well as maybe some of the parents, our student ambassadors, and everyone show up because it is nationally televised. And I think that will be a great way to bring Hope Community PCS to the forefront of not just the community, but to the entire world with those two parades. The next thing is participation in community meetings. So for an example, they are Ward 5 meetings. Sometimes people call them ANC meetings, which stands for Advisory Neighborhood Commission meetings. So I will continue to touch bases with those commissioners in our ward, but also being able to connect with some of the community meetings. And so that's some of the things that, or some of the vernacular that I use when I connect with people, which is having them support us, but also us supporting them. And so I'll continue to do that within the community. There are a lot of people who want to help. As I said earlier, they're just not sure how to help. And so it will be up to me as well as the team to come up with some ways to bring exposure to what we're doing as it relates to recruitment, but also be able to participate in some of the community meetings or citywide meetings. The number 3 is continue daily social media postings in collaboration with the marketing department. I've had the opportunity to connect with the Dream Team as well as Ashley Mentor with the support of Dr. Owens on site, as well as Ms. Walters, being able to send daily Parent Square information to parents, just informing them or keeping them informed. I believe that's a great way to make people or help people to feel or to know what are some of the things that the school is engaged in doing, how we're moving forward, and how we're growing in the process. So not only that, but also connecting with the marketing team in reference to what we're doing in the future. So for an example, as we move forward to the summer carnival, I'll continue to connect with the Dream Team as we move forward to there's another initiative I wanted to put together for our MKV students. And MKV is our McKinney-Vento students. So that would be the homeless population. I had the opportunity to connect with Dr. Owens today before I did my boots on the ground initiative, but we spoke in reference to how we can continue to not only recruit, but how can we continue to retain the students that we are recruiting? So what does that look like? And so those are some of the initiatives that we'll continue to brainstorm as we move forward in reference to recruitment, but also making sure that those students are safe and that they're heard and making sure that we understand the population. The next thing is continue with arrival and dismissal check-ins with parents until the end of the school year. So even throughout the summer, I continue to stand with Ms. Carter, as well as other leaders, as well as Mr. Owens, and so on, just checking in with parents in the morning. That gives parents the sense of knowing familiar faces, but also being able to answer questions without having to call or being able to, let's say, schedule meetings. I think that sometimes staying outside, it also alleviates some of the stress that parents have. They already have, certain things they have to, I would say, accomplish throughout the day, but I think one of the easiest things I can do is to stand outside to help parents in that process as they let their scholars come into the building. The next thing is shift to text, email and calling after school. So making sure that I continue to have a consistent communication with parents, because I believe communicating with parents in return, it also is a form of recruitment as well. And that's something that we'll talk about in a few minutes. I believe Ms. Mentor will probably talk about that in reference to the face-to-face interaction that parents are having with one another to help us with recruitment. Table setups during Summer Advantage, which is the drop-off. Normally at the drop-off table, I like to have some of the pantry items up there as well. I think that that helps parents to gravitate towards speaking with us sometimes. They'll come and pick up whether it be fruit or picking up canned goods and things like that. So again, that helps with the communication, but it also helps parents to understand that we were thoughtful in helping them along the process. And the last couple of bullet points I have is the current student enrollment, which right now is at 204. So for 23 and 24, the student enrollment right now is 214. My goal is to continue to recruit, but the goal that I have right now is to recruit an additional, let's say 60 to 70 scholars. I do want to highlight that I had the opportunity to speak with our POCs at 2 of the MKV sites, which are our homeless sites. One of the sites gave me the permission to meet at their site on Saturdays and Sundays to continue to recruit and to speak with parents in reference to recruitment. And then the other homeless population site gave me the opportunity to be stationed at their site as well, but during the week on Thursdays. And so that would be a great segue for us to continue to recruit families. There's a third site as well, in which we're recruiting scholars from there as well. So I'll continue to move forward with recruitment, and of course, Boots to the Ground, which is hitting some of the additional sites. The next thing is in reference to the My School DC application lottery results. It was 103 families that were took a look at our school in reference to being excited about our school. And the last bullet point is new student enrollment registrations increased from 86 to 94 since May the 24th. That's all I have right now.
Thank you. Christina, if you don't mind, if there aren't any questions, we could go to the next slide. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you.
Hold on, sorry, Ashley, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I couldn't get my speaker on. I know Mr. Tolliver, thank you. I know you're fairly new at the organization, but at the school, but out of the My School DC application, how many of those did we convert?
Okay.
You know?
Good question. So looking at the data, the amount of applications that enrolled was 18. Prior to me coming on board, I believe I came on board, I think today makes a month for me, but there were 18 applications that transferred over. That is correct, out of 103. So what I've done to counter that is to get out, speak to parents, visit sites, also come up with initiatives to recruit students, but also to retain the students that we have on board, but also reaching out to parents with telephone calls, daily, I would say data looks or data talks with Dr. Owens. I believe I've also spoken with Ms. Carter pretty much every day just to make sure what our numbers look like in reference to Summer Advantage, just making sure that we keep all of our students engaged and we move forward in reference to recruitment.
Okay, out of the 204 students, and I know open enrollment is probably, re-enrollment is probably still open, right? People still have time to re-up. So far, how many do we have out of the 204? How many of those students are re-enrolled?
Good question. Good question. So right now, based on me touching base with the parents and us speaking with them, our surveys and so on, we have 152 parents that are scheduled to return. And I'm glad you asked that question because it makes me, there was one thing I missed. I had the opportunity to send out a survey through Parent Square, as well as speaking with parents face-to-face. We received surveys back from parents in reference to them being able to speak towards their child or their scholar returning back to school. We found out some interesting things from the survey, but that also is a form of recruitment because not only parents, but I think that they feel engaged and so they have a voice. And so that is a way of recruitment as well. And I think that if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Morrison mentioned in reference to us recruiting, I am also driving our bus or van, I'm sorry, for morning arrival and pickup for our homeless population students, just making sure they get to school on time, but also safe. And so those are some of the things that we're doing to make sure that we continue to keep our students engaged, but it's also a form of recruitment. in reference to me driving the van. We also have our school, the logo as well as the name of our van. I'm sorry, the name of our school on the van. And so that is a form of recruitment as well. Today I wore my shirt, just being out in the community. So people ask questions in reference to, okay, what school do you work at? So that was a form of recruitment as well. So I'll continue to recruit every day. It's my job to increase the numbers. And I think moving forward with the team, we should be able to make that accomplishment.
Carrie, if I may, to give you the number, because I believe that was your question, was asking the number. It's 118 scholars that are currently at Hope that have submitted documentation for returning, and Mr. Tolliver is continuing to work on those. The 94 that he is referring to on here, these are additional new scholars. All of the scholars, speaking to that McKinney-Vento population, many of those scholars did not go through the My School DC process because they are homeless. And so the Hope staff, they had an opportunity to actually go to their living facilities, which are at the local hotels, and they took paper applications. So they are working towards getting those scholars to complete the actual My School DC process to get those applications. So that 103 was the initial that spoke to the 18, but these additional scholars that you are seeing, many of them are coming through McKinney-Vento, and they went through a paper process, which they have to do the My School DC official application through My School DC.
Can you clarify what
And
that
some of the
number is?
been in school.
The 214 number for the 23-24 student enrollment, those are students who have committed to Hope. I thought initially the math with the 103 was going to add up, but then I quickly realized that's not.
Yeah, I'm doing the math and
Yeah.
I'm kind of falling short too.
Yeah. The number that I have, and again, we're tracking via My School DC. We're looking at the intent to return, which that number is 118. And the registration would be I have 101 on this tracker, so that's a little bit off of 214, but not too much. So 101 for new, then 118, which would be 219. So at the time we did the report, it was 214. We've had some additional traction since we submitted this initial document. So it must have been, it was an additional 5 since the time that we reported out on the 214 plus on the day-to-day tracker, because we track this information every day. So it's actually 219 is the current total. So it's 118 returning, and then 101 that have submitted registrations relative to new scholars. So it's 219.
Okay, so 118 out of the current school population, you have 118 students returning, correct?
That is correct. That's the last number that was.
Okay, and the 94 number, new student enrollments, does that in 94 include the 18 from the My School DC lottery?
Yes.
That's
And Mr.
212.
Owens, you that because you if you can jump in here, Mr. Owens, and speak to the what's going on. And I believe, Mr. Wapper, you are on here. This is your your area as far as the registration.
And I'm at 212 for those numbers. And what was our budgeted goal? Eva, are you still in the call?
231 is what the budget is.
One?
Pegged at.
Okay. Okay.
I think we can meet that 231. We just had we were at 226, but then we lost some scholars to some other schools. So as we gain some, we lose some. So yeah, currently it's at 214, but I honestly believe that we can get some with all the things that we're doing. I honestly think we can get to that 231.
Okay. Okay. If we can get kind of an update, this is what, June, like, like in another month or so, that would be appreciated.
I'm gonna do you one better than that. We're gonna give you one every bi-weekly update.
Okay. Okay, because I'll enough. I'll make sure that all the board members, if we don't have our emails, I'll make sure everyone gets that update. But I need it broken down where it makes sense. We had 204 students out of this population, how many are returning? For the my school lottery, we converted 18, but that number is including the overall new. So that when we do our check, because all of us here behind the scenes, we got our calculators out here. So, it has to just make sense upfront.
Right. No, we will definitely do that. And as I stated, when we send out this information to the board, again, we send the information or the data point based off of, the day that we have to turn it in. So there is activity and traction that is being done every single day. So numbers change daily. So the actual number that I have as of right now, which is not based off of this report, which was sent previously, is 118 returning scholars. And then registrations as of today is 101. And that is where you get the 219 total scholars that are to show up on the first day. If we were to stay stagnant, it would be 219. But again, that is subject to change because every day they are making efforts to get registrations and get additional new scholars.
When you say registration, those are new scholars you're referring to?
These are new scholars.
Okay, just say that, right? New registrations, because I don't want to be figuring out if it's new or returning, or I just want to know clearly
No problem.
what it is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are actively working to get new registrations for scholars because we are, we have to make up. So if we lose a current scholar, we have to replace that with a new scholar. So, yes.
Mm-hmm. This is a race until count day in October. So we have to stay focused and energized towards the goal. 231 minimum. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. I think Ashley, you were gonna jump
Yes,
in
ma'am.
here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks, Christina.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Walter. Thank you.
So
No problem.
thank you. Marketing team deployed marketing initiatives in support of the on-campus, boots on the ground enrollment efforts led by school administration and to help increase brand awareness for Hope, because it's very important. So here are those initiatives along with the dates that they were deployed. As it relates to the mobile geo ads, our mobile geo ads campaign, our campaign exceeded the average click-through rate, which is 0.2%. We achieved 0.77%. And that click-through rate is basically a ratio of how often people who see our ads actually click them. And that just gauges how successful your campaign is. For our bus shelter ad, we averaged over 57,000 impressions weekly, and our total for the entire campaign was over 1 million impressions. We also received an additional 37 days free for our bus shelter ad as well. You could go to the next page, please, Christina. And so as it relates to our social media ads and social media campaigns, our Facebook reach increased by 699% in comparison to the same time frame last year. Our Instagram page reach increased by 1.6K%, also compared to the same time. And also our paid reach increased by 45%, as well as our paid impressions increased by 60%. Our website visits increased as well by 25% in comparison to the same timeframe. If you could go to the next page. Thank you, Christina. And so based on the performance of these spring marketing initiatives, the marketing team has worked with and are working with Principal Owens and Mr. Tolliver. And so we suggest a summer strategy that involves digital ads, social media campaigns, which we've already started, which are performing well, mobile geo ads, but then we also suggested radio ads to promote the big summer event, which is the Summer Carnival in July. And all of these activities will work to further increase brand awareness and help support those on the boots or on the ground efforts led by administration. And so you could see the month-to-month activities that we're suggesting for the summer.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad to see there's a plan. I'm looking forward to seeing what the outcome is. And I'm happy to see that we actually have a plan to get us through the summer. So I don't think we did that last year. So
yes, we also have a plan for the new school year as well, that I look forward to sharing with you all in the future as well.
okay. All right, sounds good. So we get an update on this kind of when we do September, or well, depending on what our numbers look like. So here's what I see.
Yes, ma'am.
At least it's through October, which is from what I wanted to see. So
Yes.
any questions? Any questions from Ms. Minter at this point? No? No? Okay. Who's up next? Staffing. I do have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Miss. No. I'm sorry, Miss Minter. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
This was just going back to Melissa or Mr. Owens can answer this question. Last board meeting, we approved a special board meeting. We did an approval for security at the building, locks, something like that. Was that stuff, were we able to get that stuff implemented in the building? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know Ms. Savoy wasn't able to be here tonight, but Clifford, can you just share, those have all been fully installed, correct?
What's your question? I'm listening.
About the locks. Carrie was asking, we approved to have all the locks, the door, good Lord, my words are coming. The locks. The keys to lock the doors.
Yes, the locks were approved.
They were approved, but have they been installed yet?
Installed, yeah.
Not all of them.
Okay, but they're in the process. It's not completely installed yet. We've changed some of them though.
Some of them, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like we need to have a further conversation to dig into that a little more. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. What is left to discuss? I noticed there was I think there was a discipline report in here.
Yeah, it was a part of Joshua. I think that it was at the end of Joshua's report.
Okay, all right. I mean, we can always reflect on this another time, but thanks for putting it in. Take a look, unless anyone else on the team had any questions specifically. No. So we have these new business action items. I only see one contract in my packet. I only see one for the IT. I don't see one for the custodial, landscaping, or snow removal, or did I miss that completely?
No, and I will share. They were trying to add those items in. And I know we're talking about trying not to have a July and August board meeting. But I do have updates. Really, there's only one item to be approved today. The other three, I'm just going to give you an update of where we are. And then they'll actually be at the September board meeting. So will that work?
I mean, our custodial agreements will take us that far, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we're going to be utilizing the same custodial agreement through the summer, and then we'll be completing the RFP process for next year. I can also, hang on, let me share the other pieces. I can share too for the IT piece, it's just renewal of the service that we currently have. I can direct you specifically to page 37 because there's a $22,199 monthly fee, and that includes that half-day, 4-hour on-site visit per week. And then there's kind of like an a la carte menu that's on page 47 that if we need something additional, then it's kind of an a la carte type of support. So that will be the item for approval. As I mentioned, for the summer cleaning piece, we'll continue with Phalen cleaning through the summer, and we'll begin that process. And we'll have something, we'll have a different bids for you at the September board meeting. Same for snow removal. The RFP update is we received no proposals at this time. We'll research and reach out to individual vendors for service. So that was posted, but we didn't receive any RFP or any proposals from the RFP. And then for lawn and landscaping, for the RFP, received no proposals either. We will need to research and reach out and find individual vendors for that service as well. So there's not any proposals to present because we didn't have any, but we'll have some. We'll do our due diligence now and find some different people to serve the school in those capacities, and we'll have them at the September board meeting.
Good luck finding someone doing snow removal because we haven't had any snow in this area. So I think a lot of people are out of that business, to be quite honest, because we don't get a lot of snow here. Well, God forbid next year will be different.
Now we're gonna get,
No, it'll be my fault. But a lot of people have sold their trucks and stuff during the pandemic, and it's we don't get enough snow here where we. But good luck in finding someone. There's someone I'm pretty sure out there. Eva had mentioned something about the custodial services, that we were a little higher in our spend with that. Was that a specific reason, or?
You know what, and I'm not sure, I don't have any additional information. Even if we find out anything additional on the custodial services as to the cost, I know they were looking into it.
Yeah, a couple pieces that I can share. I know we're looking at coverage, right? We want to have enough coverage, but not too much coverage. So Ops is going to see if we can have those hours match the needs. The other piece is pulling supplies out. Custodial services add an upcharge on supplies, and I always have a little concerns over, is that the right amount? So Ops will order supplies directly through the vendor, so we can pull that out also. And I think that should help.
Yeah, that's a better control mechanism as well.
Much better.
Yeah. And I do have a question. We had, when we talked, I think it's not a board meeting. We had talked about putting some type of system in place that parents can pay online, like for pizza or for field trips, and eliminate that, having that cash on campus. Has anyone looked into that as yet, or do we have I'd like to have something in place for September, by August, when the kids are back in school.
Yes. Anytime we can remove cash entirely, that is a happy day on everyone's side. It reduces tracking. I see Haritha, I'm not sure if she is still here, and I know was looking at our options to remove it entirely. Haritha, do you happen to still be? Oh, great.
I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Yes, Eva, I'm actually still looking for different vendors to actually add it as an added item to PowerSchool instead of having a different application. So we are still working on that right now. I don't have any update on that, but I can give you an update like within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And maybe Haritha, if we, to Carrie's point, really target that for back to school, that it's in place and we can, everything with exceptions, of course, for someone that might not have a card, but largely have it all run through their PowerSchool.
I think, Edlio, I know that's a service, but I'm not sure if it's tied to a specific platform. EDLIO, something to look into, I guess. And also, do we have any new protocols in place that if we do have cash in the school that it's, you know, handled differently, or does it roll up into, is there someone in the PLA offices that's kind of check in to make sure things are deposited? Like, do we have a new protocol just in case there happens to be cash, which can happen sometimes?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Melissa, you go first.
I was gonna say, we actually, so, you know, in the recent months, we'll just say that, we did put some protocols in place for, if any cash was on hand, it was to be shared, you know, counted with, double counted with Mr. Owens, Ms. Savoy, stored in a locked space and deposited within 24, same night ideally, right? But if it's a late night, there was an unsafe space, 24 hours at the latest. So we did put that like interim thing in place, like but that's basically has to be deposited on a, you know, nightly basis, and there should be two hands. We have a document where we've written it down, how much is in the, you know, how much we have on hand at that moment before it is deposited.
Yeah, because there are going to be some instances when there's going to be cash, like if it's a dance or kids can buy like, I don't know, snacks or a hot dog, or I don't know, it's just a carnival or something. So just want to make sure we can account for that too. But Ed Leo, they're pretty straightforward to use. That's one resource. Don't know what it costs, but I'll let Carissa handle that.
Okay.
Okay, so the board members have any other questions about anything we've covered in other board meetings?
I think, Carrie, the only thing that I need is if I can get an approval for the IT managed services contract renewal, because the price only changed by $656 from last year to this year, because we were asking them to be on site for additional 4 hours per week.
Okay, yeah, we're going to approve it. We're going to look at it. Yes, no problem. Just want to do that last. I want to get the questions out the way.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And this is the same vendor you said.
Yes.
And I do have a question.
Yeah.
So they don't cover, I had a note here, sorry. No, I can't find my note. So asset inventory management, is that handled in-house?
Yes.
Is that under Ms. Savoy or there's someone else?
Yeah, it's under Ms. Savoy. We actually purchased a new platform, which is not like really expensive. It only costs like $125 per year. And we just purchased that license for Asset Tiger. That's the name of the inventory platform.
Okay. Antivirus management, is that like, how do we know, like, what, I don't know, why don't they do that?
Can you please clarify what the question is?
It's on page 37, so I'm looking at the things that are not included. The request for services not covered under the agreement. And so you just answered one, which is the asset inventory management. And then there's antivirus management, you know, these are kids and who knows, you know, like, do the computers already come pre-populated with that stuff, or this is just something extra that they mean here in the contract, or?
No, the thing is, when they say they don't manage it, we actually purchase those servers and they kind of manage that service for us. We do have content filtering that we use on all of our Scholar devices called GoGuardian. So we do have that content filtering. And also the another step that we also do is like we have content filtering on our firewall. So a lot of content is blocked through firewall and also through the content filtering that we use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically everything else here, other than the filter due to acts of God, you guys basically cover. Is that right? So what's in here, like any other software or renewal upgrade fees, all that stuff comes through directly through your department?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, and we approved how many? we did an approval. Oh, I'm looking for it. Oh, 85 Chromebooks, okay. And we had agreed that that was enough to cover current and new and have extras just in case, okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, okay, all right. Any questions from anyone? Any questions or concerns at this time? And this has been vetted through the right process?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. May I have a motion to, I can make a motion to approve the IT services renewal agreement. Which is using the same vendor, and the cost for this year, upcoming school year. Base rate is $21.99 a month. And then there are a la carte services as needed. So I'd like to have a motion to approve the IT services renewal agreement.
Allison, a motion to approve the IT services renewal agreement for the next school year.
Thanks, Allison. May I have a motion to second it?
This is Anissa, I second the motion.
Thank you, Anissa. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? No. The motion to approve the IT services renewal agreement is done and approved. Thank you, Carissa. And Allison, I mean, not Allison, Melissa, we'll just see the other ones in September.
Yep,
Thank
that's
you.
correct.
Yeah. Okay, that seems to be the agenda for today. Is there anything else that we need to discuss before we take a break? Nope, okay, so we have the public comment. If there's anyone that wants to share anything, this is now the time to do so. Answer any questions, address any concerns. Nope, okay, all right. We will, well, our next meeting is scheduled for September 21st at 5:30. I look forward to seeing everyone there. If I don't see you, have a great summer. Enjoy the weather, relax, come back renewed, rejuvenated for the next school year. And at this time, I would like to thank everyone for all your hard work this past year. Yes, it's been tough and challenging, but here we are. It's the end of June, almost the end of June, end of the year. I would like to take a motion to move to closed session for purposes of discussing contract, legal, and personnel issues. It will only take a few minutes. May I have someone to approve the motion to move to closed session?
Hi, it's Sharifa. I move to closed session to discuss personnel, contract, and legal issues.
Okay,
This
thank
is-
you.
I second the motion.
All right, thank you, everyone. And we will move to closed session. I'm sorry, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And
Aye.
any nays or abstentions? No. Christina, can you please take us to closed session? And thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your summer.
Enjoy the summer.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Quick question. Are we doing the brief or I could sign off?
Oh, you can sign off, Mr. Owen.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Carrie, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. So, thank you, everyone. It's been a good year. It's been an okay year. I want to close the meeting for June 15th. May I have a motion to say goodbye? I need a motion to close the meeting.
This is Anissa. I move to close the meeting for June 15th, 2023.
Thank you. Motion to second.
This is Lorraine. I second.
Great. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And any nays or abstentions? No, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you,
Have a good
everyone.
evening. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye.